Hi there.
It's good to see you live.
It's good to meet you.
It's wonderful to actually really have you. I
Mm.
bought your book and I was like, ooh, let's ask her if she wants to come. So if you,
So you know more about me than I know about you. Would you tell me about you and your audience and
of
why
course,
me, what you want to accomplish on your
of
podcast today?
course. So my name is Patricia, as you already know.
Hmm.
I'm doing life coaching since like 2018, so quite a while. And
Hmm.
what I do with clients is like I help them to embrace their true self, which also involves to be more integrity or show more integrity with who they are and actually express this to the other person. So your book is extremely
Mm.
valuable because I can actually show, listen, what I'm saying is actually right here. Yeah, it's not just me. I discovered this myself most but then actually seeing it from you and hearing it actually one more time and, reading the whole book, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. That's so true.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So my audience is
I'm
mainly,
listening. I just saw a light I have to turn out, okay?
of
But I'm
course,
listening.
of
Okay.
course. My audience is about my age. They love to dive deep and they want to know more about how they can communicate more with the other gender. And so I find that extremely valuable. And then I actually did a couple of videos on your book on my YouTube channel. And then they were like,
Wow.
we need to know more. We don't fully understand. I'm like, wait a second. We have an interview scheduled. I will ask the questions. So, all good. We got you covered.
What? Oh, what? Fine. I don't think I know anybody who's done what you're doing.
No,
Yeah, it sounds really
you,
fun. So
it
you
is
have
actually
questions
really
from
fun.
people that you beautiful. Thank you.
It is really much fun and it's really an honor to have you. So, my audience already knows you, but I'm still going to introduce you. Alison Armstrong has actually written the book, The Queen's Code, and I guess many of you already know. So I'd love to have her here and raise your questions one more time, right? And to also say this upfront, this is not to diminish you as a woman or to put a man on a pedestal. It's actually about to be more aligned with both genders, right? And to really um, get most out of life. I mean, life is here to enjoy. And I feel like if we are speaking the same language, we are just going to get a better life. So here it is. Here's Allison. So wonderful to have you. And yeah, do you want to add anything or do you want to say anything more about yourself? Is there anything I missed?
Well, one thing I would say that might just take care of a whole set of questions, not knowing what your questions are.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to say this out loud. It's only been maybe a year that I've been able to say it out loud. The people around me knew it, but to just fly the flag, Keys of the Kingdom and the Queen's Code and the sequel to the Queen's Code, which I'm quite pregnant with, you could say in childbirth, I didn't actually write. And that's hard for some people to comprehend. I mean, I did decades of research. Everything in those books I can attest to from hundreds of conversations with men and verifications with them and checking things back with them. Is this really how this is for you? And then teaching thousands of women. So it's all, I stand by everything that's in there.
Mm,
And when I sat down to write, first Keys of the Kingdom and then the Queen's Code, a screen opened up It's like right here.
Yeah.
And a movie started playing. And I typed
You
as
did it
fast as I could.
intuitively.
I typed as fast as I could. It was
Mm,
like creating a screenplay from a movie.
yeah.
And it took 8 days to type up Keys of the Kingdom. It took 3 weeks to type up the Queen's Code. Physically impossible for a 96,000 word book. Um,
Yeah.
it takes about a year and a half average to write something like that. I didn't pick the characters' names. I didn't pick their personalities. I was as surprised by the story as the people in it. What? How? Oh my gosh. I would laugh and cry and I still do. I'm on about my 10th time of listening to the audiobook, which I recorded a couple of years ago. And it's been 3 years now. The audiobook is even more intense than reading the book
Yeah.
because I'm reenacting the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
it's so much more vibrant. And I encourage everybody
Oh,
to do
yeah.
both. And oh, good, you listened to the audiobook?
I didn't listen to the audiobook. I was reading it myself, but I was reading it out loud so I could actually hear it. And while I was speaking, like I could integrate it. Because I feel like, or at
Good.
least for me, I sometimes read a book and then I'm like, huh? You know, and then I go back and forth and I'm like, huh? So,
Your auditory. Yeah,
yeah.
you learn auditory.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm really, really good with
I
that.
would encourage you to listen to the audiobook, and I'd
Okay.
love to hear from you because it's actually a woman in South Africa who said, Alison, when I read the Queen's Code to myself,
Yeah.
it was different than when you read it in the audiobook. And I realized it was because my prejudice against men, I did
Mm-hmm.
not hear them with the same degree of emotion and sincerity
Mm-hmm.
as you read the book. And that had me realize we all, right? I've been paying attention to this for decades. We all filter, but to
Oh, yeah.
have people reading the book filtering what they think Melissa sounds like, what
Yeah.
they think Jack sounds like, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to say that because some people ask, well, like, why did you have this character do this? I didn't.
Well, none
So,
of these are my questions.
oh,
Just so
thank
you know.
goodness.
No. I actually thought it was brilliant, the way how it's written. But I heard this story before that you got this intuitively and that you wrote the book a bit different than we would expect, right? And so some
Yeah.
of us have a hard time to believe that. I totally believe that. I'm totally into that. I totally hear you there. Um, I'm just really impressed how these characters play out, and some of them are so deep. I was like, oh my gosh, you're doing this. I was like, oh no. And then I
Yeah.
actually checked back, and it was like, yeah, you're doing this. And I'm like, well, how does it make you feel? And they were like, you're emasculating me. And I'm like, oh gosh, really?
Yes.
You know, it's like it comes into realization that you are doing it too. And with that comes the kind of like understanding, hey, can we actually stop this and actually treat ourselves more, let's say, in a higher octave, right? A bit
Yeah.
more in love, a bit more in understanding, and not so much in it's you. So that's
Yes.
so nice. So
That's
let's start about the first question. What did you think about men when you actually wrote this book?
when I wrote the book would be really different. So let's see, how would I say it? By the time that I sat down and typed up that movie,
Yeah.
which would have been in 2008,
Hmm.
I've been studying men since 1991. We started our workshops in January of 1995,
Hmm.
which we started our workshops so that I could learn how to write the book by
Okay.
teaching. Yeah, by teaching women, learn how to teach them. And it ended up being that what I had to learn, and it took all of those years. It wasn't until 2008 that I realized I can do this now. I had to sort out most, if not all, of the ways that were triggered to diminish or punish or just flat out take power from men. So all the ways that's instigated, the fear and the frustration that's behind it.
Yeah.
Then all the ways that we actually do it, and then all the ways that we justify having done it. So it had to be all three parts. And
Mm-hmm.
and that came from interacting with women, trying to help them to get to the place of seeing not only does it not work to get me what I want, it's
Mm-hmm.
preventing what I want. And if you look closely, besides those moments of glee, which is not actually joy, not actually happiness, not actually power. It's something rather kind of dark. That except for those moments, it's not, we're disempowered by it. And part of that journey, Patricia, was actually seeing, and this was brought to my attention. It didn't dawn on me. It was brought to my attention in the middle of leading a workshop that everything we do to emasculate men, to diminish their ability to produce results, we actually do to ourselves and
Oh,
we do to other women.
big time.
Yeah. Yes. So, for example, we withhold appreciation from
Oh,
ourselves.
yeah. Oh,
we
big time.
ignore we ignore what we need as much
Yeah.
as we ignore what they need, right? It just goes on and on and on. And so these days I do something called your Queen's Code journey, which we're in the middle of right now, where women and men listen to the audiobook, and then we get on Zoom and they get to ask questions and they get to lay down their sword. And
Yeah.
I bring into the laying down of the sword from what I've learned since writing it in 2008, is they customize the vow. So they're
Mm.
literally the Queen's Code is it's a code of honor and it's a secret code, and they get to customize as the queen or king that they are their vow. How
Yeah.
are they defining their own honor?
Mm.
Right? I give up the right to emasculate men, especially when they hurt my feelings, especially when they make me angry, especially when they've lied to me, especially when, so women knowing their own little holdouts, like, no, they really deserve it in that moment,
Oh, yeah.
but it still's not going to help. It never helps. So I've evolved a lot. And by 2008, I would say that, well, at this point, I'm definitely have been every female character in the book. And when I found out I was a frog farmer, I
Mm.
had been in a marriage that where I was very much like Melissa.
Yeah.
I was that vindictive. I was that bitter and hurt and vindictive. And then it was my colleague who was called a frog farmer in a seminar, like in the
Oh,
first,
really? So that really happened because I was
that
about to ask
really
you, where did that
happened.
come from? That was the first time I heard this term.
Yeah, it really happened. And I don't know if it's because um the trainer at Landmark, his name is Herb Tanzer. I don't know if it's because he was a veterinarian before he
Yeah.
became a test trainer, right? But he was the one. He called my friend Lisa. She's a friend and a colleague. He called her a frog farmer. And
Wow.
and yeah, and I mean she voiced this in front of about 200 people co-ed. Do you know this
Mm-hmm.
attack on men? Sports eating, pizza watching, beer belching, couch slugs. Why is that? Right? And there was this, right? And the
Yeah.
women leaned forward, the men crossed their legs. I was observing all of this. So yeah, so I was Kimberly, except for I had no Claudia. I had no Claudia. I had to just start looking around because I didn't know anyone at that time who didn't frog farmer from, or at least I didn't know that I knew someone.
Alison,
Because,
that's so impressive
yeah, well,
because I mean, from my upbringings,
yes.
that's not possible. Like, I would have never had an elderly woman who actually had your knowledge. So it's extremely helpful for the kids and for, well, women, right, in their upbringings to understand what they're actually doing, what they're creating, like what
Yeah,
they're expressing, and how this is actually reaching men. And the
yeah.
same goes with, why do you use that to punish, right? The imperfect person,
Yeah,
right? It's kind of like we don't even know that we are doing it because we do this to women too. We
yeah,
think this is the same thing. And so this is like this blew my mind because I knew it, but you voiced it, you know? I
right.
know you're not you, but you know what I mean.
Well,
Your book
I
voiced it
do.
for me.
I
So that was
I do
beautiful.
because I mean I was Melissa and then I was Kimberly and I was Karen and in many ways and I was surprised when I realized, oh, I've become Claudia. How interesting.
Yeah, you
Um I
really became Claudia.
I
Totally.
re
I
I
totally see that.
yeah,
Totally see that.
and so it's just, I was very lucky though, because 6 months into studying men, which I made up my mind that
Hmm.
evening, and a question popped into my head, which I now recognize as ways that I'm guided or by these questions that pop into my head.
Hmm.
And the question was, what if men are responding to women?
Mm.
What if
What
men are
if?
responding to women? So I set out to find out if they were and when they are and when they're not, which was
Yeah,
really important because it tends to be the opposite of what we think. We
right.
take personally the things that have nothing to do with us, and we don't take personally the things that have everything to do with us. And yeah, and so,
Why is that? Do you
but
know?
I, well,
Why is that for women that we believe everything is our fault? Like we put it strongly on us, right? Something is not working, it's our fault.
but we don't always see, like, if a man won't marry us,
Yeah.
he's non-committal.
Yeah.
It's not, we think it's not personal.
Mm.
There's a part that isn't personal. When they're
Right.
not ready or they don't want it in the first place, that
Mm.
has nothing to do with any person. Not marry us. We learned they have 12 things that makes a woman the right person to marry, and none of them are love. None of them are love. They would consider marrying a woman for love when they knew they weren't the right person for her. That would be a dishonorable thing to do. They
Mm.
would have harmed her by doing that. So they're so different than what we think. But just to finish this thought, and you can go on, is so I didn't know I was taking everything I was learning about men and becoming a better emasculator, a better, more effective manipulator, which that's not effective either, ultimately. But I'd taken everything I was using, I learned and was using it against them.
Can you
And
bring
then I was,
examples?
well, for example, I learned early on that they wanted to be our hero.
Mm. Hmm.
And I was lucky. I was the life coach, you call it now. Back then, I called it committed listener of three single men. And and so they were right there. They were right there in front of me. And when I tried to figure out when they surprised me, I'd figure out why they did what they did.
Hmm.
And then um, and then I'd verify it with them. And I was always wrong. And it took me a few times to realize I was assuming they did things for the reasons that I would have. And so that's how I got my education and how different they are.
Yeah.
But the very beginning, after Lisa was called a frog farmer, I thought, well, what do women really want from men? And it was right there. We want a knight in shining armor. He's gonna ride in on his white horse and he's gonna save us.
Yeah.
we're
It
going to live
sounds
happily ever
so,
after,
yeah, but so
right?
true. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought, okay, we want a hero. Maybe that's the problem. We're looking for a hero and they're not.
Mm,
And maybe they don't care about being that. And I asked one of my clients, if you could be anything for a woman you loved, what would it be?
yeah.
And I'll cut to the short of it because it was sequential with these long pauses in between where I thought he was going to change his mind. He said, if I could be anything for a woman I loved, I'd be her hero. No, if for every woman I love, I could be their hero.
Hmm.
Oh no, actually, if I could be the hero of every woman I encountered every day, that would be nirvana. That's what he said to me in this span of like
How did
seven
you
minutes.
respond? I mean,
Well, I mean, the first thing when he said the first one, I went, really? And there was this long silence, and I thought he was going to change his mind. No, it expanded. Really? And then I thought he'd change his mind again. No, it got even bigger. And then I went to the other two men, and I was like, I asked Stephen this question, and this is what he said. And is that true for you too? And one of the men who was an athlete, a water polo player, he said it's one of the best things about team sports that you could
being the
be a
hero.
hero for your
Mm,
teammates.
hmm.
And then I asked another man who was older and he was quiet and then he was choked up and he said, "It's the only good thing about war that
Wow.
that you might get to be a hero." And I thought he was going to say for your country. No, he said for your comrades, for
Mm,
your yeah, for the other men. You might get to be a hero for the other men. And
yeah.
he was really choked up. And so that set me down like, okay, wait a second. We want a hero. They want to be a hero.
Hmm.
So
So
this
where's
should
the
work,
gap? Where is the
right? I
gap,
was like,
right?
this
Where
should
is
work.
this gap? Yeah.
And then again, question popped into my head. When was the last time I let a man be my hero?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. And what was there instantly was this video replay of, no, I can do that. No, I don't need that. And I got that. No, I can do that
Hmm.
myself. Why
Hmm.
would
I
you
don't
even
need
think
your
I couldn't
help.
be? Why
Yeah.
I don't need your help. Why would you even
Yeah.
think I couldn't do that? That's
Yeah.
insulting to offer that. Right. And
Wow.
like everything, seeing everything, and this is a good place for women to look. Anywhere that you're proving something
Hmm.
is an area of life that no one can be your hero, whether it's a
Hmm.
hero or like Lisa Nichols from The Secret says, a shero. No man or woman or child can be your hero if you're out to prove something. And it became a foundational question of our workshops. What are you proving? And either A, have you proven it enough
Hmm.
personally? Or B, have enough other women proven that you don't have to personally prove that?
Yeah.
Could you just retire? Could you retire from proving that?
Yeah. Can we retire from this whole belief that you need to prove that you can do
Yeah.
it by yourself?
Yes.
That
And
you
then this is
need
a
to do it yourself, that there is nobody else helping you, and that you look stupid if you don't, right? If you cannot do it. It's so
yes,
like women really believe that they need to do it themselves, and else they look not having it together. Like you need to have
yes,
it together as a woman, right? You need to have your career ready, you need to have your home ready. Like everything needs to be on your shoulder. And it's like, what is the man here for? It's
right.
like
Yeah,
he wants to be here, right? He wants to provide for us, but we are not seeing that there are so many areas that he would be so glad to help and step in. We don't see it
yes.
because we learned.
Well, and may I
Do it
put in the
yourself.
other piece in there? The other piece in there, and this shows up in the Queen's Code, that because we think they're a hairy woman, we think they're
Mm.
like us. Um, we think that they offer what they think we can't do for ourselves. So that triggers the proving. We
Yeah.
don't, and and we think they offer to get credit for offering, that it's insincere, they don't actually want to provide it,
Mm-hmm.
which has us not investigating. So what has you want to do that for me?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm.
And following that question, one of the trails that I went down early on. What do you provide for your wife? What do you provide for your mother, your girlfriend?
Yeah.
And and why that? And the answers were consistently along the lines of what I think is in the Queen's Code. I want to, yeah, it is one of Claudia's relatives. I want to do for my wife everything I can do so that she can be everything I can never be.
Mm-hmm.
And even as simple as opening a door, like
Yeah.
they open a door for us. I talk about this a lot in other places. Women tend to look for precise reciprocity. That's how you know that someone
Mm-hmm.
appreciated something. And men, how they show appreciation, the words they use is take and use. So when
Yeah.
they open the door, they want us to take that from them and use it to be more graceful passing through the door, less
Mm-hmm.
harried, less
Mm-hmm.
worried, less stressed, save the
Mm-hmm.
energy for something else.
Yeah.
And and they and so like, they show they appreciate the sandwich by eating it. They show they
I have
appreciate
this
the
one task,
face.
right? One
Yes,
task. I eat this thing and then I might do something next. And we do all over the place.
the single focus part. Yes, that
Yeah, I like this
as
one
well.
actually.
That comes in as well. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
tell. So, I mean, everything, it's like this web, this incredible web that forms a whole planet. It's all
Mm-hmm.
connected together.
Mm-hmm.
And which has misunderstanding at one side, thinking this is a kind of woman, pollute the entire picture. And then just starting with the question, well, what if they're not only not like me, but they're not supposed to be like me? What if they're supposed to be how they are?
Mm-hmm. It's like
What,
complementary,
how?
right? Not the
Oh,
same.
completely, completely. So,
Not the same,
what
but
if
complementary. Yeah.
what if there's a good reason for how they are?
Oh, I love that one. I marked it here somewhere. I'm like, this one is such a good question. So to my audience, listen
Yeah,
carefully here. It's such a good question to ask what is the reason behind that? Why are they doing it? Why are they actually providing XYZ? And asking that out loud, you don't need to figure it out, which is great, right? No guessing, no guessing here. It's oftentimes I actually feel, why aren't we asking?
I think it's human instinct. Both men and women, there's a prohibition I call don't
Mm,
ask, don't tell.
right,
And
right. Yeah.
because it would reveal a weakness of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
And and we live in an adversarial paradigm where your weaknesses can and probably will be used against you.
Right.
And so it's a concealment that human
Mm-hmm.
beings do. And with the exception of men will reveal themselves to people who they think can't hurt them, or people who have proven they won't hurt them, that they have hurtful information and they've never used it against them. And which is why a lot of men don't talk to their wives and girlfriends and reveal very much, because they've proven they will use it against them. They'll tell their
Mm,
girlfriend what he said, for example.
yeah.
Um,
It's again
where
using it
women,
against them, right?
yeah, and
Mm,
what women will do is reveal what we believe is attractive about us, including amongst women that we may be afraid that they think we think we're perfect, will reveal a fault because that will make us more attractive to the other person. So Oh, it's very tricky business. And
It's
the
so
important thing
like it's so intertwined everything, and I'm just like,
is,
let's just leave everything behind and just, move actually to what we could do possibly different
yes,
here to reconnect to men, right? It's like, what kind of words do we need to use and what questions do we need to raise to actually stay more connected to men, and stop using those kind of emasculating words that are actually really cutting off his balls, right? And cutting off everything that he uh, is. So maybe you could share a bit on that.
oh boy, just a bit.
Let's
Um,
unpack the question.
it's only 34 years almost.
Yeah.
Um, well, just to wrap up something from what you said before first, so people don't
Mm,
get in trouble.
yeah.
The question is, what if there's a good reason?
Right.
What if there's a good reason for everything that you do? What if there's a good reason for everything that they do? And the if is very important because some people have taken that question. So you're saying there's a good reason for everything people men do. So why do they do this? And why do they do that? And why do they do that? And they get really wound up about it. And I actually said to a man, I said, I assume you have a good reason for everything you do. So would you be willing to tell me why you did that? And
Mm-hmm.
it was one of the biggest surprises. He said, oh, no, I was just being an ass. Just like I had to crack up because I was granting him good reason. I wasn't on the attack. He just confessed. And men will confess to so much when they're not being held feet to the fire, when they're not being attacked. They'll just come right out and own it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah.
women think men can't be held to account and therefore are not accountable for anything, but it's because we keep trying to hold them to account for acting like women. And that's one of the things that, I mean, there are men who become self emasculating who will submit
Yeah.
to that. But most men, no, I'm not a, it's like Jack says in the very beginning. Don't they know that you can't have a boyfriend be your girlfriend too? Like, pick one. I'm going to be one or the other. And
Mm-hmm.
so, in terms of questions to ask, I mean, the words I use now are clarify and verify. And so it's good to be curious and to wonder, what if there's a good reason for that? And oh, maybe it's this. And then to ask them, and a word we found is really effective, and but you got to mean it. You can't just be using the word, but you're up to proving something. And that's the word it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
found that this actually diffuses
Yeah.
what happens when a woman says it feels like, or you made me feel. We use that like a trump card, and they feel trumped and they won't engage. They won't spend any more
Oh,
energy.
I use that
So,
so often.
oh gosh, it's
Oh,
so if you say to a man, it feels like you don't love me,
oh, that's the worst.
he'll just go, well, I can't control your feelings.
Yeah, yeah,
If
exactly.
it, yeah, if you say, well, when you do that, or you don't even have to say when you do that, it just say it seems like you don't love me. And just because it's the seems like, which means it's malleable,
Mm-hmm.
they'll go, oh my gosh,
That's
what
not
did
what I
I do
meant,
that has
right?
it?
That's
What did I
yeah.
do that had it seem that way? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because it couldn't be further from the truth for them. And
Yeah.
when we say it feels like you don't love me, and it's further, couldn't be further from the truth for them, they're
Mm-hmm.
just stumped. They can't say anything that's going to be worth the energy. So they say nothing. And we take that as proof. And
Oh, we so
it's
do,
just
hey?
all down
We
into the
so
toilet.
do.
Yeah.
I used to do that too. Like
Mhm.
I tell you, I saw myself so many times in this book. I was like, oh no, here, no, here.
Oh, oh no. Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but owning that part, right? Owning that and
Mm.
being more present with what you're saying, what you're doing.
Yes.
instead of hurting the other person's feeling or man's feeling, and actually thinking that you get something out of it. Because that's what we do, right? We think I punish you and then I'm getting something.
Yes.
Because that's what we
Yes.
do with women too.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
the
And
perfect woman, right? The
may I
perfect
jump up
person.
real quick and show you something?
Yeah,
I think I'm
sure.
going to get a big kick out of this.
Yeah.
So it has to do with um, so we we can't always tell the impact that we've had because men are really good at concealing.
Yeah.
And so I ask these questions. And I recently moved into my sweetheart's home.
Did
I lived in the
you?
back. Yeah, I've lived in the backyard for 3 years, and I finally moved into his house. And so he's cleaning everything out for me. I have my own sitting room and bedroom and bathroom and coffee setup, kitchen and built-in office desk. It's
Uh,
stunning. And my own wing. But I found this in the desk drawer, and
oh, I
I
can't
don't
see it. Oh, wait, now it's coming closer.
say
Yep.
when.
Okay, now. Now.
Yeah, let
No,
me
it's
read it to you.
yeah, read it to me
So
because I can't
it's
really fully
so
read it.
he wrote down questions that I'd asked him. He said, "Is there anything else you need or want from me? Is there anything else you want to say, you want me to say I'm sorry for? Is there anything else you want me to take back? Is there anything you want me to explain?" And it says at the bottom, no expiration date. So
Oh.
because because we can't always tell, I ask him when we're less than in love with each other, be like,
Mm-hmm.
is there any way that I've disrespected you, or any way I've hurt your feelings,
Mm-hmm.
or done something that disempowered you? Is there anything you need me to say I'm sorry for, or to apologize for, or to take back, which is, from kindergarten, it's one of the most powerful things to do. And so you're asking about, what can we say? What kind of questions can we ask?
Yeah. Wait a
And
second, Allison. I think I cannot see you clearly anymore. Like
uh,
I feel like the camera looked at your
did it fix it?
yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I just have to stop and restart the video. Thanks for
Yeah,
asking.
that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah. So you had asked what kinds of questions we can ask, and those
Yes.
are some of the best that we can ask. And then imaginary duct tape over our mouth, wait for the well, count to
That's
30,
hard.
listen longer and longer. Oh gosh.
Yeah. That's the hardest thing, hey? To really be quiet and not to say a dime until they actually answered your question. And not thinking that because he didn't answer, there was nothing coming, or he will not provide you with the answer. It's like the weirdest thing that we feel rejected already because the answer isn't coming out right away, right? It's kind of
Mhm.
like, do you know why we do that? Do you
Um,
know why
I
women
think,
do that?
yeah. Um, or I could propose at least a couple reasons.
Hmm.
Um, unless a woman identifies as being kinesthetic,
Hmm.
which I have dear friends who are kinesthetic, so I got to learn about it. Um, Kinesthetic women will be like most men, where they don't speak until they have the answer. And and like my friend Michelle, it's almost like champagne bubbles start in her toes and have to go through her whole body, and they're vetted and tested and cleansed until they come out her mouth and they're exactly what she means. Where women, we have this collision of the instinct that we call shoo the critters. And so we have a gatherer's instinct for somebody's got to be talking all the time or something bad will happen. Because if we're out in a meadow and we're gathering, there are critters out there that, if startled, they could mortally wound us. And so they even, I've been in the wild in Alaska and actually taught keep a conversation going so they can hear us coming and move away.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
yes, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
So, so we're even being like, well, how come I have to do all the talking? Because the talking's got to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep
Mm-hmm.
going to shoo
Mm-hmm.
the critters.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we're sitting in our own living room and there are no critters, the
Yeah.
instinct is always on.
Mm-hmm.
So that pause when we ask a question and there's no answer, a woman would have given an answer right off the top of her head, even if after she said chicken, no fish, no salad, no, forget it. Those are all the things I think I have to eat before I have ice cream, which is what I really want. So they'll go blah, 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 blah. And so we'll ask a question and we don't get it off the top of the head. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll revise the question and we don't get off the top of the head. And then we'll give multiple choice and they don't just pick one. And we have no idea how much we're telling them, I don't care what you think, and I'm not going to wait for it. And it's why I tell women, I mean, if you can, and it's the hardest thing to do, but if you can, do not ask a question that is that isn't important enough to you to
Mm-hmm.
wait as long as it takes for the answer,
Right.
including saying, you might want to think about this and get back to me, but it really
Right.
matters. And the
Right.
willingness to hold the tension we have in ourselves for the
Mm-hmm.
answer,
Mm-hmm.
to let them literally get back to us. And
Mm-hmm.
when we wait, I mean, so many women think men are emotionally unavailable, but emotions and feelings are at the bottom of the well. And we have to be so safe for them to entrust us with them that we're not going to use them against them. And because for women, our feelings, we often think are the truth. Whatever I feel is true. And so if they tell us what they feel, we'll act like that's how they've always felt and are always going to feel. And we'll start making stuff up about it and it will sense you this,
Mm-hmm.
therefore this, and you must this. And if you really loved me, or since you don't love me,
Oh, we
what do you
make a
mean I
whole
don't love you?
scenario. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
And
my gosh.
but
Yeah.
this is what has men not communicate. This is what has them stop talking.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the opposite of what we think. They're so much deeper than we think they are.
That's what I realized the last couple of years, where I had the deepest conversation with men, actually not with women. I felt more held with men than with women,
Mhm.
which was surprised. I mean, it did surprise me, but like the way how they showed up, actually listened, and they
Yes.
were really careful and really soft. Like it was so soft.
Mm-hmm.
It was like really heart opening and so warming and so welcoming my emotions. And I was just placing them there and actually was welcomed. Like,
Yes.
finally, they could help me. Finally, they could support me, right? Finally, they could like do something for me because I allowed myself to soften and for them to actually be there. And the funniest part was that this was not only for my partner or my friend, it was like for everybody.
Yes.
Even my dad opened up. It was the weirdest thing ever. I saw him opening up after so many years. I'm like,
Yes.
it was so easy, hey? It was so easy. And I didn't got it. I
Yeah.
didn't understand. And I asked him, like, how come you're actually supporting me now? Like, I've asked for this for so long. And then he said, well, I didn't got the point why you need it. I'm like,
Ah, yes.
and it was so easy. So
Mhm.
easy just to make a change in your thinking, in how you raise questions, in how you be, and you change your whole universe.
Mhm. Well, something I want to acknowledge you for, and I hope you will own, as well as all the people you interact with, is the things that I've learned and the things that I teach they're pretty simple, actually.
I love that. Simple is good.
But they're simple, but they require courage.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And so when people thank me, like they say, you transform my life, you transform my marriage. And
Mm-hmm.
like, thank you. And let's be clear, I was not the person who took every risk, had every moment of courage to speak up, to say what you needed, to say what it would provide for you,
Mm-hmm.
provide appreciation. I didn't take those risks. You did, and you transformed your marriage.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's so important that we own it
Mm-hmm.
because we're constantly presented with the next challenge, the next breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
In my relationship with Dan, I call it a kerfuffle. It's such a great
What is
Yiddish
a
word.
kerfuffle?
Kerfuffle, it's a Yiddish word, a
Yeah.
kerfuffle. Um, a Uh, a tangle, a brawl. Some people might call it a fight. It's like, but not
Okay.
really. But
Like
it's
a.
like, we sure got in a mess here. Oh, but that was a kerfuffle. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And so it's just a word that we use softly afterwards, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, now that we're past that kerfuffle,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't have the any condemnation in it because we don't speak Yiddish in the first place, right? So it doesn't have like what fight would be like or issue,
Mm-hmm.
which is terrible word
Mm-hmm.
to use with men. And so it was a kerfuffle, and we're past it. And but they're going to happen because we literally have opposing instincts at the
Yeah.
foundation of being male and female opposing
Mm-hmm.
instincts. We achieve we 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 achieve safety in different ways,
Yeah.
and then below that, just basic human instincts are they're terrible.
Right. Would you
And then,
mind? Sorry.
well,
Go
and just
on.
below that, what I've been interacting with for the last year, myself for much longer, but with my students, are the things that drive our behavior that aren't even human.
Mm-hmm.
They're more primitive than being human.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, please, what was your question going to be?
Would you mind to talk more about safety and how women crave to feel safe and how they actually think they get safety?
Mm. Oh boy. Just another small question, Patricia. Thank you.
You're
Um,
welcome.
so what's interesting, and I actually love what's happening these days. People wonder, right? Since I'm known so much for gender differences, like,
Hmm.
what about this more fluid stuff going on? And I love it because a long time ago now, I switched to instead of male and female or masculine or feminine, um, started talking about in a hunting mode or a gathering mode, and
Mm.
then even shifted to a state of mind. And it comes from in this moment, because it definitely switches, especially for women,
Hmm.
is your safety dependent upon feeling connected to other people, certain people, the people around you? Does it come from feeling connected, or does it come from feeling productive? Like, yes, we did good. We made the sale. I made that call. I got the appointment. I'm number two on the leaderboard, which could make you feel safer, or, I'm only number two now, right? Like it could go either way. But so is it connectivity or productivity? And and depending on which one we're identifying with at the moment, that depends, that creates how we relate to communication. So for someone for whom connection is the source of their safety, then we want it to be smooth. We want to keep the peace. Tone matters, gestures, how we're listening and paying attention and reflecting back is really important. I hear you, I see you, I got you. Imperative.
Yeah.
If we're identifying with being productive, well, that's when we worry about they're not getting to the point. And men mostly identify with being productive. And is there a point here? Are you going to get to the point? They'll even interrupt us to ask if we're going to get the point. And then the woman in their life is disconnected and she's so upset. And he doesn't understand why she's so upset. He just wanted to get her to get to the point so he could solve the problem and be productive in saving her from this upset. What? Why was she so upset? And for someone focused on being productive, who cares if you disagreed? Who cares if your voice was raised? Who cared if you cussed somebody out? Who cares? Look at all the problems we solved. Look how clear we became. Look at all that we ended up getting done.
Yeah.
Like that to them is the when we're in and to us, to women, to men, if we're in a productive state of mind, we communicate differently than if we're in
Right.
a connective state of mind.
Mm-hmm. I
And
like that actually.
bam, bam, bam,
Mm-hmm.
it's conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And then also back to the point of communicating, and one of the ways we disempower is through interrupting. A Let's just say it's a woman, because this is more common. A woman will feel disconnected because the man in her life is focused on something else and she can't feel him. He doesn't have tendrils out to her like a woman can in a diffuse
Mm-hmm.
awareness. And
Mm-hmm.
so we'll interrupt his productivity to connect with him,
Mm-hmm.
which, if that's happening, he'll be like, "What? What do you want?" And with so many people working at home now, it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
And then now she'll be even more disconnected. And she'll, you know what, we have to work this out right now. I can't wait till 5 o'clock for us to work this out. I'm going to be miserable. And he's thinking now about all the results he's not going to produce, which now they usually will use the word security, his sense of
Mm-hmm.
being secure. They only
Mm-hmm.
use safe in terms of, is a woman safe to talk to?
Right.
But secure. So not only did she lessen his ability to produce results, so
Mm-hmm.
she just disrupted his sense of security. But a big thing that women don't know about men is that single focus, dis in addition to it being a productive way of, not always, but seems a productive state of mind, it's also a state of peace. Single focus is peaceful
Right.
because the mind has screened out everything irrelevant to that result.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a
Mm-hmm.
suspension of time
Mm-hmm.
and there's a state of peace. And so we just
Mm-hmm.
disrupted both peace and productivity
Mm-hmm.
with us just quickly knocking on the door, coming into the office and going, "Just wanted to say hi, honey." It's like,
Yeah.
"Hi." Or he doesn't even look up. "Hi." We go off.
Yeah. Well, we want to connect at that point, but it's the wrong time to connect, you know. It's like there are better ways to actually feel connected than doing that.
Oh, better, especially just thinking, okay, what's he doing? He's working. What does he work for? To provide for me and our
Yeah.
family. What has he provided for me lately? Well,
Mm-hmm.
just yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
then we can literally cause our own sense of connection when we
By
couldn't do
just
that
doing
one thing.
that, exactly.
Yeah,
Feeling
we can.
connected just by changing our mind quickly, starting
Yeah,
to realize that he is already connecting to us while doing what he's doing
yeah,
instead of
it's the
just knocking
point.
at the door.
Yeah, it's the point for him of what he's doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so much of this, and you know this, it's perception, it's interpretation,
Yeah.
and it's what we're listening for. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like the question at the top of our mind when they're listening it'll determine connectivity, it'll determine productivity, or it'll determine like a complete mess. Like when someone's listening to you with the question, "What do I know about that?" Or what do I think about that?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that true for me? Like,
Right.
we don't learn anything about the other person
No.
when we're filtering with that question. And most
Mm.
people aren't even aware that they're mostly filtering with questions like that.
Yeah, but we haven't been raised that way. It's like I
But
I don't
how
know
could
many
we?
people who do that.
Well, no, because what we have are jillion generations of human beings.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's so true. It's like
Who was going to raise us that way? They were just as human as us, but with survival being much more pressing. You and I
yeah,
get to do what we do because first world countries and survival isn't at our door. Death isn't at our
absolutely.
door. This is why we
Absolutely.
get to engage in these human spirit things instead of
Yeah.
human
Yeah.
instincts.
Yeah,
But
I'm
we've got
actually
human
really,
instincts.
really happy that I'm able to do what I do because I love what I
Yes,
do. To have a
yes,
talk with you, that's great. And
yes.
I was just looking at the time and I'm like, oh, our hour is done.
Yeah, it's that
So
time.
yeah, it's that time. So to really wrap this up, is there anything that you really want to say or um, that needs to be said that is super important to you?
Hmm. Well, one would be for everyone reading or listening to the Queen's Code, just to say the assumption is that we're all good. We're all good women, we're all good men, and we've been doing the best we could with what we were given.
Mm,
And as to your point, if we weren't raised that way, we weren't given what's required to have the quality of life and lives and relationships
mm,
that most of us want now. We
mm,
weren't given it. And in every cell of our bodies are instincts, human instincts and herd and pack instincts, and even, I mean, the most primitive instincts on the planet we share. And if we're going to be what you and I are up to under stress, under
mhm.
threat, we have to embody it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not a valid choice under stress. And we'll be
Mm,
like, oh, I forgot. I didn't even think to.
mm,
So, getting these feelings of patience and compassion
mhm,
and love and generosity, getting these feelings literally implanted in our body and feeding them is the only way we're going to have another option than what our ancestors had.
yeah. It's what I teach, embodiment practices, guys. Here you go.
Yay!
From
See, I
Alison.
didn't even
Hello.
know. Perfect.
Listen to her.
Yeah,
Oh, that was
get in your
wonderful.
body.
I so loved the conversation. How can people actually find you? Can they just go on your homepage, or do you have another link that you want to share, or do you have anything for me?
This is so funny. I just looked down and saw what it says under my name. It
Yeah,
says it says
Allie Mae.
Allie Mae,
Allie
which is
Mae.
it's a teasing kind of nickname um from my 20s that I put on there when I was teasing my staff the other day. But yeah, so if you go to AlisonArmstrong.com,
Yeah.
everything that I have produced since 2006
Hmm.
is there.
Great.
Audible has oldies but goodies. They're still well worth listening to, but they don't have anything newer than almost 20 years ago.
Well,
And
it's still good.
yeah, so yeah, that's where the Queen's Code audiobook is. That's where our online curriculum is. We have over
Nice.
100 hours of formal curriculum, and it's where events that I'm doing in real time, they show up there. And um, for someone who's read or listened to the Queen's Code, a good place to go would be either a course we have called Lux
Hmm.
or to Understanding Women. Those are
Okay.
both very powerful places to go from the Queen's Code.
So thank you so, so much. I really enjoyed,
Welcome.
and I'm sure that my community did enjoy this too. I wish you all the best, and maybe we see each other again. So you never know. Let me know
Yes,
if you
thank
ever come
you.
to Switzerland.
I wondered where you were.
Yeah,
Switzerland. Oh, we
Switzerland.
have so many people in that part of the world.
You
So
see?
very many. Yeah. I've gotten to where I do courses now in the Pacific morning time so that all the folks in the UK and Northern, Eastern,
Mm,
Western Europe can participate. So it's
that's awesome.
yeah, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful to get to interact with people who find out their neighbors, like a woman in Slovenia who's in a course with a woman in Croatia who's an hour and a half awake. They're so excited to
Yeah,
meet each other.
because you have
So
something to share, right? And that makes a total new connection,
yeah,
which is awesome. So
yeah.
absolutely.
All
Thank
right,
you so
I'm gonna
much.
run. Thank you, Patricia. Thank
Thank you
you
so,
to
so
all of you
much.
listening. Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.